I was specifically asked to talk about this topic, nature-based tourism and a framework for socio-economic research. I think in the discussion this morning, I kept quiet there at the back because, I thought, well, let me first do our presentation, and at some stage in the discussion we can, I think, link many of these issues back to the presentation. So I think we can have a wonderful discussion about this. So I'm going to talk about nature-based tourism. This is something that I've worked on from early 2000s, where we've worked very closely with game farms, where we work very closely with national parks. So most of the stuff that I'm going to present today deals more with the lessons learned from national parks. But then I think we can link it, because you see so many studies that deals with socioeconomic or calls for research on socioeconomics, and I want to get back to that because I think it is an important issue. Right. Okay. Now, obviously, some of the comments made this morning is growth of tourism. It is a big industry, and I want to congratulate science and technology for acknowledging, because the award that you were talking about to me, for me, the most important part was, to me, it's a victory for tourism as a science or a developing science. Because in the past we were struggling to get recognition for tourism as a science. We always thought, well, it's something that you just apply. You're an economist and you apply it here, you're a marketer and you apply it here. But tourism has grown significantly over the past 50 years, in South Africa most probably over the past 30 years. Significantly, so thank you for that. I think it will open the doors for more researchers, and as a science I think it's crucial. So nature-based tourism is on the increase. If you don't know what nature-based tourism is, like any good academic, I'm going to give you a definition soon. So hang in there, it's coming. The other important thing is that 80% of foreigners traveling to South Africa, specifically from outside of Africa, travel to South Africa for nature-based tourism. Okay, so that's important. So there's a huge market traveling here, and you will see how this builds up to a particular problem. Competition nationally and internationally is strive. I mean, if you take all the products that we have in Southern Africa, and in the mid-90s, we started with Retosa, and the idea was to form a little Europe in the southern part of Africa, where you've got all these, and you saw some of the products that we have on the video, the Okavango Delta, Vic Falls, and all these, to combine them. So all these countries are working towards the same goal, but we are also in competition with each other. So that, I think, is important to know. Okay, here we go. So what is nature-based tourism? First definition that I want to share with you, nature-based tourism includes all forms of tourism where relatively undisturbed natural environments form the primary attraction or setting. So it's tourism that takes place in a wildlife setting. I added another one because there's always this debate about ecotourism and responsible tourism. And responsible travel is travel to natural areas which conserves the environment and improves the welfare of local people. I'm going to come back to that because that forms a crucial part of our research. It is tourism based on the natural attractions of a particular area. So you can see from this definition, it has to do with conservation. It has to do somewhere with spending, although it doesn't say it there, but someone's got to benefit from this. And obviously there's got to be a setting. And South Africa has so many of these products. If I go too fast, just show me, slow down, then I'll do that. Now, we are faced with 5 as far as I'm concerned. I've just grouped them together. 5, let's call it the big 5 of challenges that we face in nature-based tourism. And that's the one thing I like about Americans. You see, Americans always come up with these steps. Have you ever heard of the 6 steps to financial freedom? The 5 steps to lose weight. They have all these kind of steps and they all package it and it sells. So I thought maybe I should do a similar thing and that will sell. So I've got the big 5 of challenges that we face. And I think as we go along, you will most probably recognize some of them. And they are in no particular order, right? The first one is tourist needs and behavior are changing. The way tourists saw animals, saw nature and experienced it 30, 50, 60 years back has changed significantly. Remember when we were still children, we would go to Kruger National Park and you would drive around and you would see a baboon or a monkey and say, that's really funny. And then you would go to the elephant, you say, it's wonderful. But then an hour later, you would sit there in a car and then you start hitting your sister. Why? Because you're bored. And that has changed. So what it means is that national parks had to start to adapt their programs to make sure that if the kids are at the back, they've got something to do. So you've got these little maps and you can draw and you can identify which animals you see, because happy kids make a happy car, make happy parents. You know, that's how. So tourist needs are changing. People used to go on holidays for 2-3 months. Nowadays you would book a holiday for 4 weeks. That is changing. You've got more short travel, but more frequent travel. And all these things have an impact on tourism and how much people spend, etc., etc. So tourist needs are changing. That's our first issue that we need to deal with. Someone talked about interpretation centers. I think that is crucial. It is crucial because if you go to major other tourism attractions across the globe, you will find the number one thing that they develop is an interpretation center, not a visitor center. There's a big difference. An interpretation center. We can talk about that later. I don't want to spend too much time on that issue. This, to me, of all the issues that we need to deal with in South Africa, this is the big one. Poverty. Why? If we don't deal with poverty, you're going to see the third point that I'm going to show you just now is already starting to become a problem, and it's going to become a bigger problem. If you go to impoverished areas, what do we see? And you don't even have to travel. I went to Nepal a few weeks back. Wonderful country, wonderful products. But because of the high level of poverty, the environment is littered with bottles and rubbish. And you walk there and you say, well guys, you need to do something about this because it doesn't look good. It means that there's a negative impact. Go to impoverished areas, just watch the news at night when they show where you've got all these people complaining about service delivery, and you look at the footage and you will see one thing, and they all have it in common. Over and above that, the fact that there's high levels of poverty, you will see high levels of pollution and all the rest. And this has a direct impact on the product that we sell and how competitive we as a country is going to be. The third big challenge is poaching. This is a big challenge, and it's not just the rhino who's facing this issue. Pangolins are even more under threat than rhinos. Lions are becoming a threat. Elephants, and we can continue with if you go to the marine world, sharks are under attack. Where they are caught, fins are taken off, and then the rest of the body is just thrown back into the sea. So again, this is our resource base. And we will talk about sustainability, because there was a very important question raised earlier this morning on the issue of sustainability, and I'm going to come back to that issue. I think another big problem is skills shortage. We lack proper skills to manage our resource base, first of all. And if you take Cape Town as an example, why has it taken the government more than a year and they still haven't come up with a solution for the problem that they have in terms of water? Why? I just think that first of all there's a skills shortage. And in tourism, it's the same thing. We need high level skills. It's good you train a lot of people to become a receptionist. That's fine. But that's not the ultimate. We need high level skills, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in conservation management, whether it's conservation economist, whether it's agricultural economist, it doesn't really matter. But those are the kind of skills that we need. And we're not really addressing this issue at a high level. And this is a crucial part, what I call community benefication. Because the communities ask one question. If you listen to the footage wherever you go, communities ask, how do we benefit from all this? Remember the debates that national parks had in the early 90s. Kruger Park was under attack by communities living adjacent to the park. And the question was, here you have this wonderful fenced off piece of area where you've got lots of white people running around, with grand cars, and how do we benefit? Whilst at night, or like now, when the water level is low, the lions walk through, they come and they eat our goats and our sheep and whatever, and we need to deal with that. The hippopotamus, the same thing, come destroy our crops. How do we deal with that? So this was one of the key issues that started this research, because Sandparks was doing quite well in conservation. They had great conservation, and they still have great conservationists in the organization. The problem was, how do you deal with these communities? Because remember, in the past, it was easy. You send in the police and the problem was sorted. In the old days, you know, apartheid years, we didn't debate these things. That is how things were dealt with. Now, there's a paradigm shift. So how do you deal? Now we need to sit with communities and negotiate. Because if we can't find a solution, what's going to happen tonight? They're going to cross that fence and they're going to poach. And it's one of the big problems that Kruger Park is still battling with. Maybe less on our side of the fence and maybe more on the Mozambican side of the fence. It doesn't really matter. If a rhino gets killed, it gets killed. Whether it's by a South African or whether it's by a Mozambican, it's a loss for us. Okay. Right, so those are the issues that I think are critical in terms of addressing, and which played a role and is still playing a major role in terms of this research. Okay, so what is socioeconomics? The very simple definition is it's a study of the relationship between economic and social life. Right, but what does that mean? Because 90% of all socioeconomic studies in South Africa done up to, I guess, recently, 3, 4, 5 years back, was economic studies and not really socioeconomic studies. Because they all just talked about money and employment, that's all. The goal of a socioeconomic study, and this came from our work, is generally to assess socioeconomic development, usually in terms of improvements in metrics. Okay, so you have the economics, the GDP, life expectancy, literacy, and levels of employment, with the aim to enhance the benefits received by communities. In essence, it's about improving people's quality of life. That's what a socioeconomic study is about, right? So how does this product, how does this development improve people's quality of life? Again, I'm going to come back to this issue. Are we still following? Are we still okay?